This is Tim from HighGraph, and in this video we will be talking about the big CMS Showdown of 2024 because we did a survey for a lot of users of CMS, implementers, developers, and we asked a bunch of questions. There's a link in the description to the results of those surveys if you want. And what we found is that not every CMS is created equal. A lot of folks are looking for data modelers, and then another big group are looking for page builders. And so there are quite distinct differences in those in the vendor space and also how you use them. And so to explain that to you, I want to introduce you to Gregor and Grégoire, our two French bakers. And so yes, CMSs are like bake shops or cake shops, however you want to call them. And so, of course, I live in France. We're going to talk about baking. And so those two types of bakers, Gregor and Grégoire, actually represent these two different CMSs. So like Gregor here, Gregor is the cake baker. And so cake bakers actually put together all the ingredients for the base of the cake. So they're creating not how it looks exactly, but very much the basics. And so when you think about it in CMS terms, they are dealing with something we call domain content. And so domain content is something you kind of take with you over the years, and you keep it super clean and super meticulous so you can use it in any sort of way. And so what you get in CMSs that focus on domain content is things like complex custom content types that are super flexible, right? They have lots of different types of data modeling capabilities. Things like content versioning, workflows, permissions, things like that. They tend to integrate with super well with external systems, maybe of legacy data or something that is, additive to the richness of these domain models or content models. And they tend to have super flexible APIs because you have to then query this stuff from any sort of front end. So they don't really care about the front end. It's much more, this is the best we can give you this data, deal with it. So that's the cake baker, that's Gregor for you. And so then we have Grégoire, who is the cake decorator. So if you think about cake decorating, they get the cake from Gregor and then do something nice about it. And so they decorate the cake. And so that means this is much more about the design content and so the page builder type. What this means is page builders and design content related CMSs, they take the base data and they do something with it so it looks like a beautiful website at one point. Right? So they tend to have a less technical interface. They have a bunch of like drag and drop like things to just make things easier for people who are focusing on design. And so what that of course needs, if you want to design something, you really need a real-time preview, and you might want to just in context edit all that stuff so your page looks exactly like you want it and you can see it before you publish. And so they also have integrations with external systems, but in slightly different ways, perhaps a design system. And so they have a lot of customization options added to them to be able to say, okay, this title needs to be that one, it's bigger or smaller, or whatever you want to be doing. And so essentially we have Gregor for domain content, and then we have Grégoire for the design content. And this is the fun thing that I want to talk about first before we talk about how you can actually match these to make them the best CMS. The domain content, Gregor, actually is the content that you're going to use, right? And then the design content is actually Grégoire, who is dealing with stuff about the content. How will I show it? So Gregor creates the cake, Grégoire decides how it looks. And so, of course, there is a little bit of overlap because the decoration will make it taste slightly differently, right? And so how this was made by Gregor also informs how Grégoire deals with it. So there's always a bit of a cross-pollination, right? And so let's talk about the intersection, because this is where you start to get success, right? You're going to have to get the best of both worlds. And so what I see personally as the best CMSs is you choose one of the two. You are either Gregor or Grégoire. You either bake the cakes, you make the domain model really, really solid, or you're Grégoire and you love decorating it, making it the best story for the end user in the design. And so the most successful CMSs I see tend to have a bit of both, right? If you look at a CMS like HighGraph is where we're fully focused on this Gregor stuff. We're baking the cake, but we also add things like HighGraph's component system, so you can drag and drop things around, and you don't always have to hard content model stuff, and you can make a page and do stuff like that. We also have live preview coming, for example. And so isn't the cake nicer if you have it baked with and you can also do a little bit of decorations? Or isn't the cake nicer if you have really nicely decorated, but your data is actually kind of nicely usable? Going towards the edges will make it hard for most people to choose, but actually intersecting a little bit, but choosing one lane of where you are best, that's how you diversify and find your product market fit. So that's what I wanted to talk about CMSs and how I see that difference. And so happy choosing. Feel free to reach out or join our Slack community at slack.highgraph.com so you can ask all your questions about all this stuff. Cheers.